Hello, class. All right. Y'all have been doing wonderful with adding fractions. So now we're going to throw in some subtracting fractions. We're going to start real basic and easy, and then we're going to work our way up in difficulty. So this first one here says, the chart shows the distances from Mr. Rob's house to several places he often walks. It then says how many miles longer is the distance from Mr. Rob's house to the Civic Center than the distance from Mr. Rob's house to the grocery store. Okay, so we have Civic Center and grocery store. So it looks like we're going to have some extra information up here. We need this info right here and this info right here. This is not useful and this is not useful. Okay, and then let's go back. The question wants to know how much farther or how many miles longer is the distance, and so that's telling us it's subtraction. We are going to start with 7/8 subtract 3/4. Okay, and the reason the 7/8 comes first is because it says how many miles longer is the distance from the Civic Center than the other one. So that one is listed first. Okay, just like adding fractions, every time we have fractions, we're finding common denominators so we can add or subtract. Okay, so you're going to follow the same steps. You're going to do your L's. Okay, let's come up with our common denominator. I can see right now that 4 is a factor of 8, and so I'm going to go ahead and use 8 as my common denominator. If you don't know that, you can do your multiples. 4, 8, 12, 16, okay, 8, 16, 24, and you can see right away that 8 is the LCM, or the least common denominator. Okay, so both these fractions are going to become something over 8. Alright, now we got to create equivalent fractions. Right here we have 7/8, and we are trying to create the equivalent to become something over 8. Well, 8 times 1 is 8, and so we have to multiply by 1 up at the top, the numerator, and you get 7 times 1 is 7. So that fraction actually stays the same. The reason is the denominator was already 8. Alright, this one down here, 4 needs to be multiplied by 2 to get 8. And so 3, the numerator, has to be multiplied by 2 as well. And so the equivalent fraction for 3/4 becomes 6/8. Now that I have common denominators, I can focus on the numerators and do the subtraction here. Okay? And so the fraction or the subtraction becomes 7/8 minus 6/8. Denominator always remains the same, so I can go ahead and put the 8, and then you just simply do 7 minus 6 is 1. Alright, so that one was pretty easy. Let's go to the next. Alright, Adams Middle School hosted a jump roping contest. A prize was given for the student who had the longest continuous jump roping time. Maria's time was 6 2/3 hours. Corey's time was 9 1/6 hours. How many hours longer was Corey's jumping time than Maria's jumping time? These people have drank some major energy drinks to be jumping for 6 and 9 hours, but we're just going to go with it here. Okay, so we're going to set up the problem first, how it should be written. Should be 9 1/6 minus 6 2/3. Okay, and this is what we are looking for over here. This is our answer. Alright, and Corey's number comes first because it says how many hours longer was Corey's jumping than Maria's, stating that his was larger. Okay, same steps were actually good because Mr. Nelson told us last time improper fractions are never allowed, and we have 2 mixed numbers, so we're actually in a good place here because we don't have to do any changing. So we can go ahead and set up our fractions vertically. Create the L, and then let's find our common denominator. This one looks pretty easy too. I can see that 3 is a factor of 6, and so I know that my LCM, or my least common denominator, will become 6. If you still can't see that, let's try the factor tree way this time. The 3 is a prime number, and then 6 is 2 times 3. Okay, There's only 1, 2, so you pull the 2 down. There's a 3 in this list, and there's a 3 in this list, so they're at a tie, so you just pull one of them down. 2 times 3 is 6, okay? So your denominator does become 6. Now, I'm going to ignore the whole numbers right now. A whole is a whole is a whole, okay? It's complete. We're not going to mess with the whole numbers, only the fraction portion. Okay, let's see. 1/6. The denominator is already 6, so the numerator is not going to change, so I'm just going to convert that over to 1/6. And then 3 multiplied by 2 gives us 6, and so 2 times 2 for the numerator is 4. So now I have 9, don't forget your whole numbers, and 1/6 minus 6 and 4/6. Now I have to subtract here. But let's set it up vertically. Let's go horizontally. I run into a problem here, okay? I can do 9 minus 6, but look here. I cannot do 1 minus 4. I know your brain wants to flip it and do 4 minus 1, but the order must remain the same, okay? So if I have one piece of candy down on the table and I tell you to grab 4, that's not possible, okay? And so we can't do it here either. So here's what we have to do. Just like in regular subtraction, you have to borrow. Well, we have a whole number, luckily, that we can borrow from because those are complete groups. Now this is in groups of 6. Why in 6? Well, because the denominator is 6, and that's what that states, is that in groups of 6. So I have 9 whole groups of 6 here. I can borrow one whole group, so now the 9 becomes an 8. And when I borrow a whole group, I'm not just going to stick a 1 up here. It's not a group of 10, it's a group of 6. So I have to do 6 plus the 1 I already have, okay, left over. So now I have 8 and 7/6 minus 6 and 4/6. And then you're thinking, whoa, improper fraction here, okay? But just wait a second, see what happens when you actually subtract. If I do the whole number minus the whole number, 8 minus 6 is 2. And then 7 minus 4 gives us 3. And the denominator stays the same. So when I subtract, it alleviates, and that improper fraction is no longer there. Now, these have a common factor of 3, so it really would be 2.5. Okay, so that's a subtracting problem. I'm going to show you another one. If you need to copy this down and make sure, I need you to have it all down, but if you need to pause this and rewind it and just only listen and watch, that might be a good idea so that you don't have to worry about copying the problem down. You can just concentrate on listening, okay? All right. Now we just have a problem that we're just going to, oops. Okay, now we just have a problem that we're going to just solve. So we have 5 1/8 minus 2 3/4. Again, I can automatically see that the denominators are different, and so I'm going to have to make that change so that I have a common denominator. Okay, I can see that it's subtraction. Don't always assume it's addition. So let's set it up over here vertically. So the 1/8, and then 2 and the 3/4. Again, don't worry about the whole numbers until the very end. Right now we're just working with the fraction portion to get those common denominators. All right. Again, we have a 4 and an 8. I can see that 4 is a factor of 8, or in other words, if I list my multiples of 4, I will say the number 8. So I know that that's actually going to be my LCM. If you don't know that, you can always list your multiples. Okay, so I can see 8 right there. All right, both of these are going to become 8s. This one, I do not have to do anything because it already is 8s. This one I have to multiply by 2, and I get 6/8 is the equivalent fraction of 3/4. Add the whole numbers back on there. Okay, and now let's go and write it horizontally. Okay, so let's come 5 and 1/8 minus 2 and 6/8. So I think I've done all my work here. I get, and I'm like about to subtract. I know I can do 5 minus 2, but then I have to check and see if I can do 1 minus 6. If I have 1, can you take 6 away? No, that's impossible. So here we are again. We're going to have to borrow from our whole number. All right. This one has a denominator of 8. So this is in groups of 8. I have 5 whole groups of 8 and 1 left over. Okay, so when I borrow a whole group, I have to take it and subtract 1. Now there's only 4 groups, and when I borrow a group of 8, I have to add 8. Okay, so it's like the 8 pieces were all together, and then they get broken up and have to go over here to the numerator. Now I have to do 8 plus 1. So I get 4 and 9/8 minus 2 and 6/8. Okay, then you can do whole number minus whole number. 4 minus 2 is 2. I'm not worried about this improper fraction right now because when I subtract it will go away. So 9 minus 6 is 3, and denominator is 8 because denominator remains the same. Box your answer. 2 and 3/8. I know that 3/8 is simplified. 3 is prime. And 8, there's only 2 and 4. And 3 is not one of those factors, so I have simplified my fraction. Okay, again, get this problem down, and then if you need to pause it and rewatch a different example for a little bit more help, then you can do that. All right, please fill out the Google Doc, and we will see you in class. Also, if you have questions, this is a very abstract, hard concept, so if you have questions, please write them on the Google Doc so that we can go over it first thing in the morning or afternoon before you're given your assignment. All right, y'all have a great night.